Can Atari succeed where Valve failed? What do I mean by this? Well, we're going to talk about two different pieces of technology that serve a very similar purpose. This is to be a pseudo-console. These two pieces of technology are the Ataribox, or now known as the Atari VCS, the video computer system, and the Steam machines. Now, before we get into this, there's always going to be that one person in the comment section blurting out how this isn't the true Atari. Well, I say who cares. The 7800 and the Atari Jaguar weren't made by the same Atari that made the 2600 and the 5200, and this wasn't made by the same Atari that made the Pong console. These were all different companies. I say as long as the companies continue to do what the original company did in some way, it is fine. Like how Henry Repeating Firearms has nothing really to do with the original Henry company that made lever actions during the US Civil War, but they still make lever actions under the Henry name. They also make a reproduction of the original Henry. So no one really cares that the company is using the Henry name. Now to get back on topic and really talk about the subject of the video. So we have to know what these pieces of technology are trying or tried to do. They are console PC hybrid machines, meaning that they are PCs that can easily be used with a controller from your couch like a console. The purpose of said machines is to compete with normal type of consoles, and PCs are kind of a hybrid market. Now, Atari, one of the Ataris, attempted this back in the late 1980s with this thing, the Atari XEGS, or the Atari XE video game system. XE stands for XL expanded from their computer line. Things got weird names back in the 1980s. The XEGS was very weird in that it came with a controller, a keyboard, and the deluxe edition, I believe, had a light gun. Now that we see that this has been attempted before, we can talk about the Steam machine, since this would be the next runner-up in the timeline. There might have been some in between there, but that tried to do something similar, but this is the next one I know of. So we need to talk about why the Steam machines failed. Well, firstly, let's get into why Valve, or how Valve put a lack of work into them, really. Firstly, Valve just made the Steam OS and gave it to a bunch of random companies and said, good luck. There were 14 companies asked to make Steam machines. 14 different companies, each making 3 to 4 models, ranging from $400 to over $5,000. Meaning that there were like 50 different models, so many different prices, that that's way too confusing to sell. Who would ever go to the store? Like, you'd have an entire shelf, entire rows. You could have had entire rows filled with different Steam machines. Like, the lack of standardization, you might as well not even try it. How are you going to sell this to consumers at all who have a hard enough time choosing between two different consoles? See, if I were Valve, here's one simple thing I would have done. Pick one company and have them make one model of Steam machine. Let's say the Alienware one, since that one was the flagship, and I believe that one actually made it to store shelves, because I remember seeing it in Best Buy. That might have been the Alienware Alpha, which is the same thing except with Windows. So, at the time, there were 4 models of the Alienware one, of the Alienware Steam machine. This should be changed to just one. It should have been based around, I don't know, maybe 1080p gaming. Maybe you could have gone with 720p. You know, much easier for people to understand. You plug it in, it's 720p or 1080p, one single resolution. Next, if people want more power to play at higher resolutions like 1440 or 4K, release an external graphics card, like Alienware eventually did for their R2 series of the Alpha, as well as Razer does for their laptops. But this should also be standardized. Let's say the base system comes with a 960 equivalent card. The external upgrade should be equivalent to a 1070 Ti. A good upgrade, but not too pricey. Something that people might think about. The next thing is this external graphics card has to plug, and it just has to work. You plug it in, it updates, done. Don't have to do anything else, don't have to go into settings, it just has to work. The next problem with the Steam machines was that the store, which was just the Steam store that showed you all types of games, it showed you games that don't work on your system. It was just a standard Steam store. You could literally see Windows and Mac games on your system. It'd be like if the PlayStation store showed you Nintendo Switch games that you were allowed to buy, but you couldn't play them. That's just a lack of work on Valve. See, Alienware put a little bit more work into their version because they came up with their Hive Mind kind of custom UI thing that's what you saw when you first turned it on. Actually, it was fairly interesting that they did this, and like I think no other Steam machine had that, or that custom UI. I think it just went straight into the desktop on some and straight into the Steam store on others. Something else I thought was completely idiotic on Steam's or Valve's part was you could just download their Steam OS on any computer. That lessens the standardization even more. I mean, actually, that makes standardization not at all. So not only did you have the like 60 different models, but you also had people basically making their own Steam machines. No standardization at all. Like, blah. It was awful. See, then we run into another problem. The games don't automatically optimize for the setup you're using, and how could they? There was no standardization. What I'd have done, when you buy a Steam-compatible game, SteamOS-compatible game, the system should automatically optimize that game for the Steam machine that you have. Obviously, if we were going with the just one model, it'd be fairly easy to. Then, if you have the external Power Pack graphics card, it should then ask, do you have this installed? Yes. Would you like to play with enhanced graphics and resolution? Yes. Changes it. Do you have this installed? No. Just go straight to the game. Or do you have this installed? Yes. Would you like to play with enhanced graphics? No. It should work like that. Simple, easy to use, easy to understand. It should then lock the settings, and then turn them into something simple like how consoles do. Where you can just adjust the lighting or the dead zone, or not the dead zone, the safe zones. Simple stuff. Or you should be able to go into the settings like a regular PC, but it should have a warning. If you proceed past this point and change any settings, you might encounter issues with frame rate. Proceed with caution. So people know changing the settings are going to affect performance. But now we get to Atari, and what are they doing? Everything that Valve didn't do. One model. One standardized model. Standardization makes everything easy to understand. They went to AMD, got specific hardware made for this, as far as I know. That's what all the reports said. The Atari VCS, unlike the Steam machines, isn't just a bunch of off-the-shelf parts thrown together. 2 models of controllers. Not that the Steam controller is a bad thing, it's just very different, and I think it tries to do too much. But the Atari VCS has a modern-style controller for modern gamers. It also has a retro controller for those old gamers who might be buying this for nostalgia, or if you want to try the old controller. These 2 models of controller that it comes with, great idea. Games already made for the system. The system is said it's going to come with hundreds of Atari games. This allows people to get easily familiar with the system. They don't have to go looking for games to understand how the system works. As far as the reports go, this will also have a custom UI and a custom Atari store. The Alienware had a custom UI. So that's one good thing, another good thing that they took from one of the Steam machines. Atari has their own store, meaning that the games that Atari sells on this are going to work for the system. They're not going to show you games that aren't going to work, unlike what Valve did. Now, you can install Steam on this if you want. It's open enough, but it's also standardized, meaning threads and videos can be made about what games work good on the system and which ones don't. See, Atari's doing what Valve failed to do. That's exactly what this is. That's all I see it as. There are a lot of naysayers, but yeah. So, I don't think this console PC hybrid thing will sell very well. I don't think it's definitely not going to sell like the current 3 consoles, but I think it will sell more than Steam machines did, or any Android machine. I see a lot of comparisons to the Ouya. I'm like, I don't see how it's like the Ouya at all, So if you made it this far into the video, tell me what you think. What would make you purchase an Atari VCS? For me, it would be if the Atari Jaguar games are on it. Also, if the Atari Godzilla games are on it. Or eventually were on it. I'd definitely buy it for the Atari Godzilla games. Oh, Godzilla Unleashed was so good. Too bad it's only on the Wii, though. Alright, bye.